Hello, today I'm going over primary and secondary succession lecture. So this is just introducing these two ideas. And what they are is about how new ecosystems form. Usually we're talking about like the easiest to think about is a forest. How do we go from rock to having forest? That's succession. Ecological succession is a slow process where species in a community gradually change and are replaced over hundreds or thousands of years. So this is also a slow process. This takes time because you get what looks like a fine ecosystem, but there's going to be some changes that happen until it reaches kind of a climax. As a new community emerges, it makes it more difficult for the prior one to survive. Eventually, a community can become stable with only small changes occurring over time. And what we see here is a forest that had a fire. So a fire swept through it, killing lots of stuff. And how is that forest going to slowly repair itself over time? Well, it's going to go through some different steps to eventually get back to an old growth forest. Succession can happen in two main ways. Primary succession occurs in areas that previously didn't support life, like rocks or sand dunes. This is a good example. This is lava rock that's going to cool. Well, once it does that, there's nothing that's living on there. It's just bare rock. But eventually, ecosystems can form on that rock. Secondary succession, a more common type, happens in ecosystems that have been disturbed by natural events or human activity, allowing them to regrow. And that's something that we'd see here where there's a fire that went through destroying the forest, and then how does it regrow? That's secondary, where this one is primary. All right. Primary succession occurs in an area that have no prior life, such as new islands formed by volcanoes or land exposed by glacier retreats. So we talked about the new rock formed by volcanoes, but also if you have a glacier that's been there for 10,000 years and it slowly starts to melt and pull back into the mountains, you're going to have lots of exposed rock with nothing there, no soil or living things at all. Let's see, where were we? I think here, this process is much slower than secondary succession because it starts without any existing soil. So the first part, the hard part, is just building up that soil little by little. It can take thousands of years to naturally create fertile soil. And that's what you see here is Hawaii again, but instead of lava rock, now we have this really rich rainforest that is built up over time on that rock. The first species to colonize these barren areas are called pioneer species. So pioneer species, which can live without soil. Lichen are a prime example of a pioneer species. They are a composite organism made of a fungus and an algae or cyanobacteria. The algae component photosynthesizes while the fungus absorbs nutrients and holds water, and together they start the process of breaking down rock. So you got your bare rock, you got your lichen that come and live on here, and slowly over time, as it breaks down some rock and some of this stuff dies and gets recycled itself, you start to get soil in the cracks, and eventually enough soil that the first kind of weeds can grow there. Secondary succession occurs when a community is partially or completely destroyed by a natural or human-caused disaster, such as a forest fire. And we see here when we start off, we still have some soil and rock. There might even be like burnt logs, just some things that are still left there on the surface besides just exposed bare rock. A new community will eventually take its place. Like primary succession, pioneer species are the first to colonize the area. So we have pioneer species again. These may be different though because we already have some soil. Over time, more stable species become established. Slowly we get a different group of plants and shrubs, and then some of the first trees come, and eventually the oldest trees that shade out some of these previous trees form this mature or old growth forest. The final stages of succession, or the final stage of succession, is called a climax community. This is a stable community that has reached its final stage of development. Although a climax community may still have small changes, it can remain the same for long periods if it is not disturbed. We've got another image here showing a good example from Mount St. Helens. So volcano blew up, blew away all of the things that were living here, and then slowly you get some pioneer shrubs and species that start forming. Years later, you get some of the trees starting to form. This is not a climax community though, because it's going to still change until it gets back to being, like I said, old growth or a mature forest. Okay, I hope that helps. If you have questions, let me know. Thanks.